Water.
Okay, it's John Willis again about the Loop here, rounding out this kind of Devopsdays 5-year reunion video series. Yeah, I think all these guys are my favorite, but Stephen, Patrick, Stephen's one of my favorites because we met. I didn't know him from Adam. I was at the event. He was a very well dressed dude. He's a snappy dresser if you've ever met the man. Very 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 sharp looking man, and he was talking about Puppet, and I was very much pro selling Chef and trying to convince everybody in the Chef, and I just he had some great ideas about what he wanted to do with Puppet, and I felt like we were really connected, and it honestly has been an incredible friendship over the last 5 years. Just again, not only has the technology of that event been so amazing, not the technology movement, the movement itself been so amazing. It's these friends that I've made that is just, I think, really the icing on the cake. So with that, welcome Stephen Nelson Smith, Mr. Lord Cope.
Thank you very much.
Hey buddy. So like the first question I've been asking everybody is, how did you wind up in Ghent? What got you there?
So there was, right at the beginning of the movement that we now call DevOps, kind of preceding that was the whole kind of agile sysadmin thing. There was a mailing list. I was on it, Paul Nazrat was on it, Patrick Dubois was on it. And I didn't know who Patrick was, but we'd shared emails and we'd discussed a number of things. And I think he mentioned that this thing was kicking off in Ghent. And I had a look at it and I thought, I need to be there. This is my crowd. These are my people. And I remember, I think the first evening that we went out and I got talking with Chris Reed, and we were saying, wow, these are my people. These are all people who view the world like me and do stuff that I do. And at that stage, there really weren't that many people who viewed the world like we did. And so the idea of getting together to meet with people, some of whom I already knew, loads of whom I didn't know, to talk about experience and share ideas just seemed too good to miss. So, yeah, I got on the train.
It was a pretty good train. So it's like I've expressed this many times in podcasts, and then the last couple of video series I'm doing in this 5-year reunion about my experience, and just reiterate, it was just a ridiculous rejuvenated my career, because I was really I didn't feel like everything I had been doing for customers, not that I wasn't trying hard, it just didn't seem like IT in general was working, and that event was just gave me a 5-year, hopefully 10 or 15-year runway. So what was that event, the actual event, like for you?
So I think the clearest memory I have was walking in to the kind of the open area in the building where the event was sat, and Ari was sitting on the sofa there, and Chris Reed was there, and a bunch of other people, and there was a conversation underway. And if I remember correctly, it was a conversation about the application of pub/sub and message queues to managing operations. And my head just went bang. I was like, oh, I'd never even thought of that. Like, whoa, okay. And then Ari started showing. I'd already spoken to Ari about his M Collective stuff. But we'd had the opportunity to look at that, and my overall impression was this is a collection of supremely practical and passionate and clever people, all getting together, sharing stuff, and there was something magical about the combination of ideas and people and personalities that just ignited. And so yeah, it was just incredible, just such an intense bunch of people. And I've been to a whole load of conferences and open spaces like that before, but never has there been such a feeling as the feeling that I had even just in that first room before we'd even met each other. Even in that first conversation where people are kind of gingerly introducing themselves, it was just clear this was dynamite.
Yeah, no, it was the same experience for me. I mean, everybody, I felt like I was way over my head with some of the people that there yourself.
Totally, me too, totally.
And it was just crazy. I mean, I've said this before. I knew I had to be there. I mean, when Patrick told me about it, not to bore everybody with the story over and over again, but I heard Andrew talking about, agile infrastructure. I was like, Andrew Shaver, where in the hell, who's doing this? And he's like, some dude in Belgium. And I literally tracked down, and I don't know if I got Patrick on the phone, or somehow I communicated with him. I can't remember. And he said, well, we're running this event, and I'm like, I have to be there. And like this, like and again, like you said, when I got there, it was just like, watching people present, watching Chris Reed, watching Lindsay Homewood, and Lindsay Homewood talking about, queue-based, a whole different structure. I've been doing hierarchical monitoring, very fanned out, basically hub spoke infrastructures, which were just freaking nightmares. And this kid is talking about, a queue. It wasn't RabbitMQ, it was some Ruby-based queue system. His Flapjack, and I'm like, holy crap! IBM hasn't even figured that shit out. So that was pretty cool. So that was there for me. So I was talking. So I did this series already with Patrick, and I don't know what order they'll come out. But Patrick said that at the end of he was like so busy, he wanted to make sure everybody was having a good time. The food was, you've run events, I run events. You can definitely get caught up. So he didn't get the initial magic because he was so busy, hoping that the event didn't suck, basically. And but he goes, when I asked him the question about, kind of the transition from what you thought about the event to what do you think about over the last 5 years, I think he said, I often thought about Stephen Nelson Smith's blog article after that. He says, because I wonder if he didn't write that blog article, would have the movement gone the way it did, and your initial blog article about your reaction about the DevOps was insanely impactful. So given that article, given the last 5 years, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's been a bumpy ride. I mean, obviously, those of us who have continued to evangelize and share our ideas and try to help other people embrace the rationale behind it. Sometimes we've had big wins. Sometimes we've gone in and helped organizations, and magic has happened, and people have started enjoying their work. Productivity's gone up. People have started shipping better software. Reliability has gone up, and people's lives have been improved. And that's kind of what makes me tick. I want people's lives to improve. People who work within the IT sector generally, I think, amongst all knowledge workers, I think, tend to be the most prone to getting sick, the most prone to getting unhappy, getting burned out, just generally getting bored, because they can very easily find themselves a tiny cog in a big machine and wondering what the hell the purpose of their work is. And when you're able to turn that around and make changes, that's very, very exciting. But I tend to think that the experiences that I've had have tended to be kind of the low-hanging fruit on reflection, because it's real easy to bring DevOps into a Shoreditch startup. I mean, there's no resistance. No, I've successfully managed to bring DevOps into sections of large organizations, and that's more challenging. But where I think I certainly haven't succeeded, and I think generally the movement has not succeeded, is in bringing DevOps into very large organizations, investment banks, large IT organizations, and also in something that isn't just web operations. So I think it's been bumpy, and I also think that in certain respects we've been kidding ourselves. There's been a bit of self-congratulation. There's been a little bit of rock star type status stuff going on, where actually, if you were to count the number of people who truly get and truly do DevOps, you're talking thousands, maybe hundreds, thousands, not tens of thousands, and weigh that up against the number of people who work in IT, and you're talking about a fraction of a percentage of the people who could potentially be touched by this. So yeah, there's a sense to which there's a real echo chamber thing, and the series of conferences and the series of blog articles and backslapping sometimes just gets a little bit disappointing, because I'm not actually sure that it's making as much of a change to people's lives as it could still do. And then the other thing which I think has happened is, and we always knew this was going to happen, As soon as it gained enough momentum, it was obvious that the marketers were going to jump on board. That was always going to happen. It was obvious that the big companies were going to say, hey, would you like to buy the DevOps? I have the DevOps. You can buy 2 for the price of 1. Like, what? Really? And that was always going to happen. And I think people who didn't expect that to happen were naive. And yeah, maybe some of us were naive. And now when I see insert large enterprise software vendor of choice here selling their DevOps solution, their DevOps toolkit, then I sigh slightly. And I think the final thing that I've seen that has happened in the last 5 years has been a gigantic focus on tools. And that I think, well, it's mixed. I mean, I've done a number of presentations. I've done a lot of work where I've viewed the tool as a DevOps enabler. But DevOps is about culture and change and mindset and attitude and working relationships and shipping software. And the tools are just something that might help you get there. The tools are there which are designed to reduce the impedance mismatch, designed to help you make it easier to do what it is that we're actually trying to do. So the tools are necessary, and you could argue that if we didn't have the tools that we had and the conversations that we had, maybe this would have not happened. But it's way too easy to become introspective navel gazers and talk about the latest variations of cool config management tools and actually miss the fundamental objective. And so I think, I was having this conversation just last night, I would put forward that when it comes to making DevOps work within the organization, the technology is the easy bit. Like, it's just technology. I mean, it's not that hard. You can learn how it works, experiment with it, read the documentation, poke around until you understand how it works. That's not difficult. There's nothing difficult in that. The difficult bit is solving the people problems, the organizational problems, the political problems, and that's actually the area of DevOps, which is the area which potentially has the largest win, but the area in which I've seen the least impact.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and we're trying to keep these videos short, but me and you have had conversations for hours about this. I mean, it's you take the good with the bad. I mean, as far as the tools, me and you, and that 100 maybe or less than 100 that are deep in the kind of really understand this, and I'm trying not to pat myself on the back here, but like the tools are the interchangeable parts, like literally, right? It's
right.
Chef or Puppet, it's Ansible, it's Nagios, it's Sensu, it's I mean. And we tend to we kind of cargo our culture in that we think, oh, I want to be like Etsy, and so let me see what technology they're using, and and if you don't have Chad Dickinson as your CEO, you're not going to become so it is always, I mean, I guess that's the future question I wanted to ask you, what you think the future holds, and I'll just give my little silhouette here, in that I mean, the problem is it has grown. So the breadth of the discussion is much wider. So you have people on the outer fringes that are really just like, I want my DevOps, give me my DevOps. I want to sell my DevOps, I want to consume my DevOps, right? And then you have that kind of middle ground who, floats between the two, and then you have, a bunch of kind of core thinkers that will just stand up and fight the good fight every time on, it's got to be culture, I've said this 100 times, the CAMs, if you don't have C, the AMS is absolutely freaking useless. But it's hard when a movement gets so big. What do you think the future lies?
Well, it's a really interesting question. I think we stand before a precipice. There's a real possibility that we just screw this up, and in fact, an argument could be put forward that it's already been screwed up. So DevOps is now just a laughing stock. Sometimes, if you just look at some of the quotes bandied around on Twitter, DevOps is kind of equivalent with a smothered chuckle, and then what else is DevOps? Well, DevOps is something you stick on your CV, even though you have no idea what it means or you've never done it, so that you can add 10K on your salary. DevOps is what you put in your job description so the cool kids apply for it. And DevOps is what you put in your 20-year-old enterprise management technology which hasn't changed. Just stick DevOps on the front, and it looks like it's got a new look of paint. So it's the emperor's new clothes all over again. So there's a potential danger that we've screwed it up already. Now, I don't actually think we have, because I think there's a core bunch of people way bigger than it started, like a big core bunch of people who have good intentions, and right motivation, and have a clear understanding of what DevOps can do for humans, which is the stuff which matters to me, and for organizations. And I think that actually, if you get the human piece right, the organization piece naturally flows. Happy people make money. So, so I think the future lies in somehow managing to balance the requirement to say we're not going to do an agile manifesto and say this is the definition of DevOps. That was never the plan. But on the other hand, being able to put a stake in the ground and say, hey, that's not DevOps. Okay, DevOps is not this, whatever that this is. And I just think that the possibility is that it becomes something which is just a bit old hat. Like people, oh yeah, I remember DevOps. That was a thing that happened in the early 2000s. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit like, no, the fads, they come and go. In 10 years' time, nobody will be talking about DevOps anymore. That's possible. Or alternatively, we'll actually start making real breakthroughs in terms of how people interact and how people interrelate and work together. And maybe we'll have an opportunity to introduce a better way of living and working and relating together as engineers, developers, and operations people. That's what I hope for. I'm an optimist. I tend to expect great things to happen, and then I get disappointed when they don't. I fall in love very easily. I fall in love with ideas, and I fall in love with people. And then when those ideas turn out to be rubbish, or those people turn out to let me down, I hurt. And so I'm expecting there to be a mixture of elation and hurt over the next 5 years. But I'll be around, and I'll be doing my best to make DevOps a culture-centered and people-centered thing that improves the lives of people who work in IT, with a knock-on effect of improving organizational effectiveness.
Totally. I mean, that's, I didn't really pick up on that. I mean, I just love the idea of, again, for me, it was that I knew that what I had been doing for 20 years was not, moving the ball. It was, it was still, IT was still misery. I mean, I was making good money. Again, it's, there are a lot of jobs that are just misery, and, and again, these are, first world problems, not to compare misery in IT to misery in really, really bad jobs or dangerous jobs. But the point being that I just didn't feel like, but I got that this was something to actually work, so I was more being win-win, but it wasn't until I really ran into Gene Kim. I think you've had this DNA all along, but where Gene kind of talked about the reason why he was interested in this is to improve the lives of millions of people, and that at the end there's high suicide rates in IT, and when we get woken up in the middle of the night because of just shitty infrastructure, we take it out on our family all day or our coworker.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, and that you're right. If we can, I was joking 100. You're right. There's thousands, because there's some really great people, and I go on forever. John Vincent and Gene, and just people that have just come in that we all just love and embrace. So anyway, to end up, I do want to say, as I was thinking about this, that your impact on me was, I think it was the second Europe one, the Hamburg one, where you ran that hackathon, and it was magical the way you ran that. I mean, and I literally, the way you kind of ran that hackathon, I've told you this many times, I was like, my God, this is, you threw the Kanban board up, you were basically sherpering everybody who was pairing, you were moving people around. It was masterful, and literally coming out of there, I got this passion for doing these things, and you could argue that in the early days of Chef, some of these monster hackathons that I ran for that absolutely modeled, and wouldn't have had a clue had I not stumbled into that room where you were running that hackathon. So thank you for that, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, let's end it up, and just another one in the series. I think this might be the last one, and good to go. Thanks,
Wonderful.
everybody.